Scene 17, The Test. January was a new year, but it felt like an extension of December, cold and quiet. Snow came down the first week, covering the sidewalks just enough to make everything look clean. It didn't last. By the time school picked up, the clean snow was gone, placed by a gray slush pushed to the sides of the streets like something nobody wanted to deal with. People moved different after the holidays. Whatever December had set into motion didn't feel like it stopped. It kept moving quietly. I wasn't expecting anything when V pulled up, but I was surprised to see Denise in the car with him. It was late afternoon, that in between time where it's not quite dark, but the sun already gave up. I was outside the house, hands in my pockets, talking to Frankie when I seen the car turn the corner. I dapped up Frankie and told him I would link with him later. They pulled up slowly, tires crunching against the leftover ice near the curb. Who was that? That's my boy Frankie from school, I explained. Come take a ride. I climbed in the car and greeted Denise. The heat in the car was on. I could feel my face thawing out from being outside. V didn't look at me right away, just pulled off from the curb like this was something normal. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the kind of silence that makes you aware of everything. The sound of the tires on the wet pavement, the low hum of the engine, the way V's hands gripped the wheel. You been good? He finally asked. Yeah, just school and staying out the way. He nodded like that was enough and mumbled, I hear that. He tapped the steering wheel, then looked over at Denise. They never said anything, just eye contact. Sometimes, he said, people think staying out the way keeps them out of things. I didn't respond. Didn't know if I was supposed to. But being around long enough, he continued, means things come to you anyway. We arrived in Philly and turned down a block I didn't recognize. The kind of street where people notice cars that didn't belong. My chest tightened just a little. Not panic, but awareness. V pulled up halfway down the block and parked. The engine was still running. Sit tight, he said. Then they got out of the car. I watched them walk up to one of the houses, third one from the corner. The porch light was flickering like it couldn't decide if it wanted to stay on. They knocked a few times and the door opened up halfway. I couldn't see who it was inside. They were talking, but I couldn't hear anything. It didn't feel like a super long time, but it didn't feel short either. I started to sit back and close my eyes for a second when the energy changed. Voices got louder, and a person came from around the side of the house moving quickly. Denise turned her head just enough to see him, and then the sound cracked through the streets. Loud, sharp, and way too close. My body locked up before my mind could catch up. My hands tightened, and my heart felt like it skipped a few beats. For a second, it felt like everything went still, like the block itself froze. When the motion came back, it came all at once. V and Denise jumped in the car and slammed the doors. He put the car in gear and pulled smooth off, like nothing had happened, like we weren't just sitting in the middle of complete chaos. There was no words for 2 or 3 blocks, maybe more. The noise still rang in my ears a little. I didn't know if someone got hit or not. Didn't know who the guy was or what I just saw. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't outside of things anymore. You good, V asked, in the same tone as before we pulled up on that block. Like we were just checking in after something normal. Yeah, I said. My voice sounded steady. Even I was a little surprised by that. He nodded once and said, "Sometimes things don't go how they supposed to. What matters is how you move after." Denise didn't say anything. She was just looking out the window like she was sightseeing as we drove. "You saw what you saw," he continued. "Ain't nothing to add to it. Ain't nothing to take away." That definitely wasn't a suggestion. That was instruction. When we got back to Newcastle, he pulled up to my house. As I got out the car, Denise told V to hold on and jumped out the car to holler at me. She stepped out the car and closed the door behind her, then folded her arms. "Hey," she said low. As I looked at her waiting, she studied my face like she was checking for something. "You ain't got no questions?" she asked. "I didn't know what to ask," I replied. She nodded slightly, like that answer mattered. "That's not it," she said. "You knew better." There was a pause, then she stepped a little closer. "Just understand, not saying nothing," she said quietly, "that's still a choice." I didn't respond. She held my gaze for another second, then gave me a small nod. "Be careful what that turns you into," she said. Then she turned and got back in the car and shut the door. Inside the house, I went into my room and closed the door. I sat on the edge of the bed when everything hit me. Not the sound, not the moment, but the choice. I wasn't made to go along for that ride. I sat there for a long time, long enough to realize how quiet things were, long enough for the moment to settle into something permanent. I could say something, tell Mitch, tell anybody. I could act like I wasn't supposed to be there, like it didn't have nothing to do with me. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor like it might give me an answer. It didn't. By the time I leaned back, it wasn't a question anymore. I wasn't going to say anything. And for the first time, staying out the way didn't feel like avoiding something. It felt like I had already stepped into it. Scene 18, Spring. Spring came in uneven, cold mornings and warm afternoons. The kind of weather that made you bring a jacket just in case and regret it by third period. Classroom windows stayed cracked, letting in air that smelled like wet pavement and cut grass. Teachers moved like they were tired of winter too. Lessons loosening up around the edges. Everything felt restless, like people were waiting on something they couldn't name. Even the hallways sounded different. Less echo, more footsteps lingering after the bell. Mitch's days started early now. The gym lights were already on at Mount Pleasant when he got there. Sneakers echoing across the floor while the rest of the school was still half asleep. Basketball practice wasn't loud, just long. Coaches didn't waste words, but their eyes never stopped moving. The season tightened and games got closer. Mitch felt a hand on his back more than once. "You got him," coach said, nodding toward the opposing team's best player. Mitch didn't talk back, just checked in and did the work. By March, Mount Pleasant was still playing where nobody expected them to be. First state tournament appearance in 5 years. Mitch averaged 18 points, 8 boards, 5 assists. Numbers people started repeating like proof. They didn't win it all, but nobody left unsure of who the future belonged to. When basketball ended, he didn't slow down. Track spikes came out and laps replaced jump shots. Mitch felt himself shifting again, already preparing for the next demand. Tanya met him after practice most times, sometimes on the bleachers, sometimes just waiting outside the gym. They learned how to sit in silence together. Later that spring, something crossed the line they had been walking toward for a while. It wasn't rushed or awkward, just quiet and intentional. It's like they both understood what it meant to trust each other with that part of themselves. After that, they moved differently. Mitch stayed longer when he could have left, and Tanya touched him like she wasn't afraid of what came next. It made them closer, steadier, like they were sharing a secret the rest of the world didn't need. Mitch told me one night while we sat outside on his porch. I nodded like I understood exactly what Mitch was saying. CeeLo wasn't around to hear about it. That wasn't accidental. Mitch asked me not to tell CeeLo, allow him to be the one to let him know. I agreed and said, "That's your business, cuzzo. Not my place to tell anyone." I felt spring most in the way people watch me, the way conversations paused when I stepped up, the way people waited on my reactions. Rhonda caught me between classes one morning, asked me straight what I wanted. She wasn't angry, she was just hopeful. Virginia, on the other hand, needed witnesses. Laughed loud, touched my arm longer than necessary, made sure other people saw it happen. Denise's words came back to me every time, chosen and believed. I started to see what I'd lose no matter which way I leaned. One night it clicked that staying neutral wasn't protecting anyone. It was just delaying the fallout. At that same time, Denise started pulling me closer, not just warning me, but explaining herself. She told me pieces of what she carried, how she learned early where family lines really were, and how easy it was to get trapped standing too close. She started talking to me about college like it wasn't a dream, but a direction. "You don't owe this place your whole life," she told me once. Serious. Just don't confuse loyalty with limitation. At home, I found myself outside more, helping my mom turn soil in the garden, pulling weeds, learning which plants needed space and which ones thrive crowded. She talked while we worked, about nothing important and everything at once. I liked how quiet it made my head feel. I like watching things grow because somebody paid attention to them. It felt separate from everything else and somehow connected too. CeeLo's spring looked nothing like school. It happened in kitchens, cars, back rooms, and where decisions were made without raising voices. Sonny gave me more room now too. Not supervision, but expectation. CeeLo handled things clean, asked fewer questions out loud, more questions in his head. With Erica, things had shifted too. They weren't circling each other anymore. They were already in it. Sex wasn't new anymore. It was familiar, part of their rhythm. The conversations got heavier because of that. Erica didn't ask where things were going anymore. She laughed when she needed to, but sometimes I'd catch her watching CeeLo like she was deciding how much longer she could afford to wait. She wanted to know where she fit. One night she told him she needed to know if she was standing beside him or just near him. CeeLo didn't promise anything he couldn't control. "I'm not leaving," he said, "but I'm not done building either." It wasn't romantic, it was real. Erica stayed, but she stopped pretending patience didn't cost her something. Spring didn't introduce new paths, it sped the ones up already chosen.